Hello. Burnout, you've all heard it. It was actually, there was tons of talks about burnout before COVID. And some of the numbers that I've listed there are that pre-COVID, if you did a search on scholar.google.com, there was about 13,000, 14,000 articles about burnout because it was a regular discussion. In the 2 years since COVID, half of that amount has come out again. Another 7,000 articles have come out just in the past 2 years because COVID has had such a profound impact on employee and radiologist burnout. I acknowledge radiologist burnout, but there's already a ton of articles out there. What I'm here to talk about is technologist burnout, and that's what impacts us as radiology administrators. So that's what we're going to discuss. Now, what's going on with burnout? You've got all kinds of things attached to it, right? You've got there's always I'm not paid enough, right? I'm going to go work somewhere else for more money. You'll never hear a technologist say, "Boy, am I overpaid for this job," right? Then you got us on the other side as administrators, always being asked to do more with less. We're always being asked to squeeze a little bit more out of there. Can you run that department with, well, you know, I know you just lost a tech, but can you keep running it without hiring somebody new? You got the boomers retiring, the older generation, they're heading out the door, waving happily, leaving us a little more short-staffed. You got rad tech schools that are really kind of cornered on how many technologists or students they can graduate in their 2-year cycle. I have approached them in the past, these schools, and said, "Can't you give me more? I need more techs." And they're actually kind of harangued by different regulations that say they can only put out so many techs based on how many jobs are available in the environment, how much help they get from the government, financial aid, that kind of thing. And then, of course, COVID has really affected what's going on. So I took the opportunity. I have a blog, the Radiologic Technologist.com, and a Facebook group for the same thing. And over the years, we've got 5,000 plus members on the Facebook group. I encourage you to go there if you're interested. What I like it for is it allows me as an administrator to keep my finger on the pulse of what these technologists are saying outside of work. And they're saying everything. And it's all right there in this public group. But I went there a few years back and I posted a poll. And I said, if you have experienced burnout or think you are experiencing burnout, share with me what the cause is or was. And through a couple of polls strategically placed, I've got thousands of responses from several thousands of technologists out there, and started to form an article based on those responses. And I took those responses, put them in a spreadsheet, and I came up with about 13 different causes. Now, that's not an all-inclusive list. There's always going to be new things added that cause burnout. But I found 13 general categories, and then I sat down with those 13 categories, and I tried to figure out how could we reverse these? How could we eliminate, alleviate, make it not so bad? And that's what the first half of this talk is about. And so this is just an example of when I post a question, all the people, all those blue squares and circles, that's where I've blacked out the people's faces and names so they're protected anonymously. But those are all the responses everybody starts throwing around about the things that are happening at their work and what they're seeing. The 13 causes I'll just share with you real quick, and then we're going to go through them one at a time rather quickly. There's inadequate personnel, the classic understaffing. I mean, really, that's not even only for healthcare. That's everywhere, right? I mean, you go through you try to go to your favorite restaurant, and they're not open past 6 p.m. because they don't have enough staff. I mean, this staffing issue has really come to a crescendo with the help of COVID. Then number two, you've got uncontrolled traffic of patients, where you have more patients showing up than you expect. You've got unhealthy rad tech lifestyle, and that can mean a lot of things. I typically think of the third shifters who run on 13 Red Bulls throughout their shift and aren't eating appropriately. You got ambiguity within the job, meaning they're not quite sure what they're supposed to be doing. If I'm a technologist and I'm supposed to be scanning as fast as I can, how come you keep handing me a disc to burn every 5 minutes because the patient brought in something from outside the system? Lack of proper training and orientation. You got to have a good onboarding system. We'll talk about that. An unhealthy work environment. There's different personality traits that can affect our staff. You get type A versus type B. Inappropriate equipment can sometimes be the issue. Ineffective leadership, that never happens. Trauma cases, that's something we don't talk much about. They don't teach it in school. But if you're working at a level 1 trauma, you can see some really serious stuff that can affect you for a long time, even a lifetime. And we've got to learn how to debrief and deal with that appropriately. Ergonomics are always an issue, especially for our sonographers out there. I'm a big proponent of Hoyer lifts. We'll talk more about that. Profitability, driving workflow, we never see that in the workplace. And expanded work duties, hello, multimodality technologists.